Save my son. I don't care what it takes. Sir, I can't promise a miracle, but I will not let that boy give up tonight. Sometimes miracles don't wear white coats. They wear the truth and courage. The sirens broke the silence of a perfect morning in Washington, D.C. The president's motorcade rushed through Pennsylvania Avenue, faster than it ever had before. Inside the armored SUV, President William Harris held his 8-year-old son, Ethan, in his trembling arms. Ethan's body was cold, too cold. His skin pale, his breathing slow, his pulse faint like a whisper lost in wind. The Secret Service agent in front kept shouting into his radio, "ETA 5 minutes to St. Mary's General. Prepare emergency ward. Repeat presidential emergency." The president's wife, Laura, sat beside Ethan, her tears silent, her hand over his chest as if trying to warm his little heart. Will, he just collapsed. He was fine this morning. He was fine, she cried. President Harris, known for his calm and authority, was breaking inside. He had seen wars, he had seen disasters, but nothing terrified him like the thought of losing his only child. As they reached the hospital, the building seemed to come alive. Doctors, nurses, security, everyone stood ready. Helicopters circled above. News media started to gather. Within seconds, Ethan was rushed into the emergency ward. The president followed, surrounded by his security detail. Dr. Mitchell, head of the emergency department, took charge. BP dropping fast. Pulse unstable. Prepare the ventilator. We need full blood work, now. Machines beeped. Tubes inserted. A dozen professionals surrounded the small body. But as minutes turned into an hour, the color didn't return to Ethan's face. A second doctor entered, then a third. Soon there were 18 top specialists, neurologists, cardiologists, infectious disease experts, all of them trying, all of them failing. Outside the room, the president stood frozen. Every few minutes, another doctor came out to explain or to apologize. "Sir, we are doing everything we can. Sir, the cause is unidentified. Sir, we're running out of time." Inside the glass window, the mother watched as her boy's body lay still. Machines breathing for him. The president's lips moved in prayer, something he hadn't done in years. Please, God, please. Across the hallway, unnoticed by anyone, a young nurse named Amara Lewis stood quietly, holding a clipboard. She wasn't part of the main team, just one of the night shift nurses who had stayed overtime because the hospital was short-staffed. She watched through the glass window the powerful men, the specialists, the chaos, and her heart broke. She had seen death before, but there was something different about this boy, something she couldn't explain. Amara took a small step closer, then stopped. She whispered softly under her breath, "Hold on, little one. Don't give up yet." 2 hours passed. Ethan's condition worsened. His temperature kept dropping, and none of the medications were working. Dr. Mitchell called the president aside. "Sir, we've exhausted every known protocol. His organs are shutting down. We can't identify the infection source. It's like his body's shutting down from the inside out." President Harris clenched his jaw. "You're the best doctors in the country. Find a way." "Sir, we've tried every way," the doctor whispered. "I'm sorry." The president stepped back, lost. Cameras flashed through the glass. He waved them off. He didn't want the world to see him like this. Laura fell to her knees in the waiting area, clutching Ethan's toy airplane, the one he never slept without. Her tears dropped on the floor tiles. The world's most powerful parents, powerless now. In the hallway, Amara was preparing for fluids for another patient, when she overheard one of the doctors talking. "His cells aren't responding. It's like his immune system is confused. We can't stabilize him. No drug is working. Amara stopped mid-step. She had read something similar in a case report 6 months ago. A rare immune reaction seen in only a few children in Africa. The treatment wasn't medicine. It was a biochemical balance. Therapy, a precise mix of glucose and electrolytes that reboots cellular response. But it had never been tested in the U.S. No one here would risk trying it on the president's son. Still, her instincts wouldn't let her stay silent. Amara took a deep breath, walked to the head doctor's room, and knocked. He looked up, irritated. "Not now, nurse. We're in crisis mode." "Sir, I know," she said. "But please, I need you to hear me out for just 30 seconds. He sighed. "Go ahead. I studied a case like this during my internship. The symptoms match an immune paralysis triggered by unknown infection. There's a simple biochemical correction that can—" Dr. Mitchell interrupted. "You're suggesting an untested solution for the president's child. Do you realize what you're saying?" "I do, but he's dying anyway," Amara said softly. "We have nothing to lose." He stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Out of the question. We can't experiment. The media will tear us apart." Amara left quietly, but as she walked down the hall, she whispered to herself, "When did saving a life become a political risk?" She leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. Her mind ran through the formula she remembered. Her heart told her it could work. She closed her eyes. She could hear the monitors from the ICU, steady, then slower, then weaker. Tick, beep, tick. And then, silence. Nurses ran. Doctors shouted. The code blue alarm echoed across the floor. Amara froze for a second, then ran toward the ICU doors. Through the glass window, she saw Ethan's body had gone still. And the president screamed. The ICU was chaos. Machines beeped louder. Alarms screamed, and doctors shouted medical codes that echoed down the hallway. "Get the crash cart. Start compressions now." Pushing adrenaline. The president stood, frozen outside the glass wall. His reflection stared back at him, pale, broken, helpless. He had spent years leading a nation. But in this moment, he couldn't lead his own heartbeat. Inside, the team worked in perfect rhythm, pushing, pumping, injecting. But there was no response. One by one, shoulders began to drop. Eyes shifted to the clock. 4 minutes, 5, 7. Dr. Mitchell finally spoke, his voice heavy. Time of death, 4:32 p.m. The words hung in the air like a storm that refused to pass. Laura screamed and collapsed in her husband's arms. Reporters outside caught the sight through the windows. The silence of power falling apart. Amara, standing near the corner of the hallway, couldn't move. Her mind screamed. Her heart refused to accept it. She had seen death. But this one wasn't done yet. Something inside her whispered, "Not yet." She stepped forward. "Doctor, please," she said softly. "Give me 2 minutes with him." Dr. Mitchell looked up, his face strained. "Nurse, it's over. Just 2 minutes. You've tried everything." "Let me try one thing," she said, her voice trembling but firm. He hesitated. The president, hearing her, turned slowly. His eyes red. "Who are you?" he asked. "Amara Lewis." "I'm a nurse here," she said quietly. "I might know something. Please, sir, let me try." For a moment, no one spoke. The air felt still. Then the president nodded faintly. "Do it." The doctors stepped back. Amara walked to the boy's side. The monitors were still, the air thick with failure. She placed her fingers gently on Ethan's wrist. No pulse, but the skin still warm. That meant there was still a window. She whispered under her breath, "You're still in there? I can feel it." She opened the supply tray, grabbed a saline pack. and quickly began mixing the solution she remembered. The special balance of glucose, sodium, and a trace mineral adjustment. It was a precise combination. One mistake and it could shut down what little function remained. Dr. Mitchell hovered nearby. "What are you doing?" "Restarting what's left of his cells," she said. He shook his head. "This isn't protocol." She didn't look up. Protocol failed. As she injected the fluid into the foreline, she whispered to Ethan, "Your body just forgot how to fight. Let me remind it." She held his hand. For a moment, there was nothing. 1 minute passed. 2. The monitor stayed dark. Then suddenly, one soft beep. Everyone froze. Amara looked up. There, another beep. Then another. The line rose slightly on the screen. Dr. Mitchell leaned closer, stunned. "Is that?" "It's working," Amara said softly. "Come on, Ethan, stay with me." She stabilized the drip, adjusted oxygen flow, and massaged the child's wrist to increase circulation. His chest rose slightly. The room erupted again. Nurses rushed. Doctors re-engaged. The monitor came back alive. The color returned to his face. For the first time in hours, there was hope. He turned to the nurse inside and whispered, "Who is she?" Inside, Amara was crying silently but working with calm hands. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of faith. "You just have to believe, Ethan. Your heart remembers how to fight." 3 hours later, the ICU lights dimmed slightly. Ethan's heart rate was steady but fragile. He was alive, but no one knew for how long. The President and First Lady sat outside the room, exhausted. Dr. Mitchell walked to Amara, who sat on a chair beside the child, still monitoring the drip. "I don't know what you did," he said quietly, "but he shouldn't be alive. And yet he is." Amara looked up, her eyes tired. "It wasn't me. It was his will to stay. I just gave him one last chance." He nodded slowly. "Whatever you did, keep doing it." The President entered the room quietly. He stood beside her, his hand resting on the edge of the bed. "My boy, he's breathing again," he whispered. Amara stood up. "He's stable for now, sir. But he needs constant care. His body's still weak." The President looked at her with eyes that carried both hope and disbelief. "You did what the best doctors in the country couldn't." "How?" She hesitated. "Sometimes science needs a little faith. I read something once, sir, that the body listens when someone believes it can heal. I just believed for him." He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Miss Lewis, whatever you need, you have it." Later that night, the media outside the hospital began reporting. President's son showing signs of recovery. No one knew how. No one mentioned the nurse. Inside the room, Amara stayed by Ethan's side long after her shift ended. She watched the small rise and fall of his chest. She thought about her own past. Her younger brother, who had died from the same kind of mysterious illness years ago, back in Georgia. She had promised herself that if she ever found a way to save someone from that same pain, she would. As she adjusted the drip again, Ethan stirred slightly in his sleep. His fingers twitched. His lips moved faintly. Amara leaned closer. "Ethan, can you hear me?" A small sound escaped his lips. "Mom." Tears filled her eyes. She looked toward the window, where the President and First Lady had just stepped in, and smiled softly. "He's waking up," she said. Laura ran forward, placing her hand over her son's cheek. His eyes fluttered open for the first time in almost 12 hours. The President covered his mouth, unable to speak. Amara stepped back quietly, letting the family reunite. But before she left the room, Ethan's small voice called out faintly, "Thank you, Miss Nurse." She smiled. "You just keep getting better, champ." Morning sunlight filled the hospital windows, painting long golden lines across the floor. It was peaceful for the first time in 2 days. Ethan slept quietly. His color returned, his breathing soft and steady. The President and First Lady sat close by, holding each other's hands, whispering prayers of thanks. Outside, in the corridors, the world had changed overnight. News vans, reporters, flashing lights, all demanding one answer. How did the President's son survive when every expert gave up? Doctors gave vague statements. Collaborative efforts. Experimental response. No single person responsible. But inside those walls, everyone knew. It was the nurse, the one they almost ignored. Amara Lewis. Still, Amara didn't seek attention. She worked her shift quietly, refusing interviews, avoiding cameras. Whenever someone thanked her, she simply said, "It was the team." But behind that calm, the hospital administration was growing uneasy. The formula she used wasn't approved. No paperwork, no authorization, no lab test. Dr. Mitchell called her into his office. "Amara, close the door." She did. He sighed and leaned forward. "You saved his life. But the board is concerned." "Concerned," she repeated softly. "You used an untested method. Technically, it breaks several protocols. If this gets out, the hospital could face federal review." Amara looked down at her hands. "So I should have watched him die." "That's not what I'm saying." She raised her eyes. "Then what are you saying, sir?" He hesitated. "I'm saying you might have to keep this quiet. For now." Amara smiled faintly, a tired kind of smile. "Don't worry. I didn't do it for headlines." She stood and walked out slowly, her footsteps echoing through the hall. Every nurse she passed gave her a nod, a quiet sign of respect. One whispered, "You did what we all dream of, Amara." She only replied, "I just did what was right." That night, as she left the hospital, she looked up at the tall building glowing under city lights. Her reflection shimmered in the glass doors, a tired face, messy hair, weary eyes, but a heart at peace. Somewhere inside that building, a child slept because she refused to give up. She whispered to herself, "That's enough for me." The next morning, the hospital woke to chaos again, but this time not medical, political. White House officials arrived in black suits, filling the hallways with tension. They spoke in hushed tones, holding documents and phones. Dr. Mitchell approached them nervously. "Gentlemen, everything is under control. The child is recovering." One of the officials cut him off. "We need full reports. Every procedure, every staff name involved." When they reached Amara's name, the tone changed. "The nurse." One official said sharply, "She used an unauthorized method." Dr. Mitchell swallowed hard. "Yes, but sir, she saved him." The man frowned. "Doesn't matter. The President's son cannot be linked to a medical controversy. Do you understand?" No media mention. No statements. Silence. Later that day, in the President's suite, his chief of staff spoke quietly. "Sir, the nurse's actions were unapproved. The press could twist it. If the treatment fails or has side effects." President Harris interrupted, his voice cold. "She saved my son." "Yes, sir. But politics can turn heroes into risks." The president didn't reply. He turned toward the window, watching the sunset over the city. His heart told him one thing. His world told him another. He finally said, "Handle the politics. But make sure she's treated with respect." That night, Amara received a letter. It was formal, stamped with the hospital seal. "Due to procedural violations during the treatment of patient E. Harris, you are placed under review pending investigation." Her hands trembled as she read it. Under review, the same words that had ended many good nurses' careers. For a long moment, she sat on the hospital bench, staring at the paper. A janitor passed by and paused. "Everything okay, Miss Lewis?" She smiled faintly. "Yes, everything's fine." But inside, she felt the world turning against her. She had saved a life, and it might cost her everything. Days passed. Ethan grew stronger. He smiled again, laughed again, started drawing airplanes on the whiteboard by his bed. But Amara was no longer allowed inside his room. A new team had been assigned, and she had been temporarily suspended from clinical duties. She watched from afar, behind the glass, like a shadow no one wanted to see. Every time Ethan looked toward the door, she smiled, even if he couldn't see her. Dr. Mitchell tried to reason with the board, but rules were rules. The media frenzy grew louder, demanding details. Rumors spread that an experimental formula was used. Commentators argued about ethics, risk, and race. Would they have silenced her if she wasn't black? One journalist asked on live TV. The question went viral. But Amara stayed quiet. She didn't speak to reporters, didn't post anything online. She just waited. Until one evening, as she packed her locker, a small voice came from behind her. "Miss Amara." She turned. It was Ethan in a wheelchair, smiling, with a nurse pushing him. He rolled closer. "They said I can't see you, but I wanted to say thank you." Amara knelt down, her eyes filling. "You don't have to thank me, Ethan. You just get better." He handed her a small drawing, a crayon sketch of her standing next to his hospital bed, with big words written in a child's handwriting. "My guardian." She held the paper tightly. "That's the best award I could ever get," she whispered. The Secret Service agent cleared his throat. "We need to go, ma'am." Ethan waved as he left. "Bye, Miss Amara." She waved back, tears falling quietly. Outside, the media shouted questions about the mystery nurse. Inside, she folded the drawing and kept it in her pocket, her heart heavy, her soul calm. 3 weeks later, Amara sat in her small apartment on the east side of the city. She had been officially removed from duty pending ethics evaluation. Her savings were running out. She had no family nearby. Still, every night, she looked at the small drawing on her desk, "My guardian." It reminded her why she had done it. One rainy evening, she heard a knock on her door. When she opened it, she froze. Standing there, without security, without cameras, was the President of the United States. "Sir," she whispered, shocked. He smiled gently. "May I come in?" She nodded, stepping aside. The tiny apartment felt even smaller with him inside. The man who lived in the world's biggest house, now standing in her humble home. He looked around, then said quietly, "I've been wanting to see you. I owed you this." "You don't owe me anything, sir," she said softly. He shook his head. "I owe you my son's life. I owe you my faith back." For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the sound of rain filled the silence. Finally, he said, "They told me what happened." The review. The silence. The punishment. "It's not fair." Amara smiled faintly. "Fairness isn't why I became a nurse." He looked at her with respect. "You did what every leader should do, what's right, not what's easy." He handed her an envelope. Inside was an official letter from the White House. By order of the President of the United States, Amara Lewis is hereby commended for extraordinary courage, compassion, and service in saving the life of Ethan Harris. Tears filled her eyes as she read it. He continued, "It's not public. Not yet. Politics takes time. But I wanted you to know, we didn't forget." She looked up. "Thank you, sir. That means more than you know." He smiled. "Ethan talks about you every day. Says when he grows up, he wants to help people the way you do." She laughed softly through her tears. "Then, I guess my job is done." The president extended his hand. No, Miss Lewis, your journey just began. As he left, she stood at the door, watching his car disappear into the rain. Her heart felt light again. She didn't need fame. She had peace. Months passed. Spring came to Washington again. St. Mary's Hospital returned to its usual rhythm, but something had changed. On the pediatric floor, a new plaque hung on the wall. In honor of courage beyond protocol, Nurse Amara Lewis. The board never announced it publicly, but everyone in the hospital knew. Amara had been reinstated quietly. Her shifts were long, but she never complained. Children smiled when she entered the room. They said she had magic hands. One morning, as she walked through the corridor, a familiar voice called her name, Miss Amara. She turned. Ethan was running toward her, fully recovered, holding a small gift box. The President and First Lady followed behind, smiling proudly. He hugged her tightly. I missed you. Amara laughed. You're getting stronger every day. He handed her the box. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with simple words. Faith heals. The President stepped forward. We're finally making it public. The truth. The world deserves to know who saved him. Amara shook her head gently. Sir, the world already knows enough. Let this be Ethan's story, not mine. He looked at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. You really are something special. She smiled softly. Just human, sir. As the family left, Amara looked out the hospital window. The sun was rising, the city glowing with light. She whispered to herself, one act of faith can change everything. The monitor beeped softly in the next room. Another patient waking up. Another life waiting for hope. She walked toward the sound, her heart steady, her purpose clear. Her life wasn't about recognition. It was about the quiet miracles no one saw. The ones that happened every day when someone refused to give up. Moral lesson is that sometimes doing what's right means standing alone. True healing begins not in medicine, but in the courage to care when no one else will. Your turn. What's the life lesson you're walking away with? Tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe the channel for more interesting videos.